My name is Laura and this is Carys. Carys is 7. No, that's my son. Carys is 9 years old, she's almost 10, and she was diagnosed with pre-B ALL leukemia in 2020. The day Carys got diagnosis, we actually were taking our son to our GP to get his 4-year-old immunisations, and Carys was not supposed to be there. It was a really uncertain time with COVID, and once we got her into the office, she said, "I'm just going to write you a letter and I want you to go to the hospital straight away." I remember on the way to the hospital, my phone ringing and it was the GP saying, "Are you there yet?" And I remember thinking, what's the rush? Of course, they just started with a blood test, and a few hours later, we knew that she had leukemia. I just still remember from that first day of diagnosis when they had a cannula in both arms, and she couldn't use her arms for a few days. You know, didn't even complain. From having to stop work, to manage my son, to make a plan with my family, on top of things at first not working for her, it was like the most difficult time. I got the feeling that our families didn't really know how to help. And I remember getting texts and phone calls about things turning up, really large bags of things, an enormous cake that was uncut, toys and games that weren't appropriate age-wise. You know, Carys being sick, she wasn't going to use them for a long time. It was like with a tremendous sense of guilt that I could see that people were attempting to show us that they cared and that they loved us and that it mattered. But then we were getting enormous gifts of things that weren't particularly relevant to our needs at that time. I felt that it wasn't something I could discuss with people that had gone out of their way to give me things. I didn't feel like I was in a good place to complain. And yeah, in my case, I ended up speaking to a Redkite social worker. I first came in contact with Jo because in the first few days of Carys' diagnosis, a lady at my husband's work told us about Redkite and how effective that charity was. And so I started to look into the services available after I received my red bag. I was using our conversations as an outlet for how overwhelmed I was. The reason why it's so important to have a coordinated approach to family support is when you're going through treatment, your day begins often before sunrise, and to coordinate with people separately on top of that. I remember mornings I would wake up and there would be 70 messages on my phone and people offering and asking and checking and supporting and showing love, but me just not being able to respond in the way I would have if I wasn't so focused and exhausted. When you get the right kind of help and you feel heard and attended to, that's when you feel most supported. So some examples of things were we had a weekly fruit and vegetable box that somebody would take care of. One of my friends would come and help with the garden. Because of the COVID situation, every 24 hours we would swap. And so quite often that meant that we needed a family meal ready. You know, in most cases they were even portioned out or in separate containers. Once their understanding came around to acting upon your request or your point of need, things became easier. Having a charity available like Redkite was probably one of the most important things for our family because they were so effective and organised. I really felt that everything that we accessed relating to Redkite was set up specifically for families like us, and that's what I remember the most, is that they were there.